Update on the iCloud hack by the Turkish Crime Family, who, as far as we can tell, live in North London. On the line with us right now, Zack Whittaker. He is a writer and editor for ZDnet and is the guy who did all the research for ZDnet on this data set that was provided to you by the Turkish Crime Family. Welcome, Zack.
Hey, Zack.
Hi, good to be here.
I don't want to keep you from your date with Mary Jo Foley. Apparently, he's going to have a beer with Mary Jo Foley at Rattle and Hum any moment now, so we'll do this quick.
Sure, sounds good to me.
So the first set was a set of 54 credentials, right?
That's right. And we contacted pretty much every person on that list. Not everyone responded, but for every person that did respond, they confirmed that their password, which we were given by this hacker group, was in fact accurate.
Now, this is an extortion scheme. They claim to have 250 million of these credentials and that they will wipe people's iPhones if Apple doesn't give them a significant amount of money by April 7th.
Yeah, that's right. So we also obtained a larger set of the data.
Was that from them?
That was from them, yeah. Okay. And it was a little under 70,000. And we found a similar pattern. But some people said that their password was at some point valid, and others said that their password was not. And it's clear that this is not by the group's own admission, this is not a breach of Apple systems, but a roundup of previously breached data. So the logic goes that if you use the same password on several sites, it was probably also their iCloud password as well.
So Apple said this, and so did the Turkish Crime Family. I love that. They're not Turkish, they're not a family, but they're probably criminals.
Probably.
Apple said, no, they didn't hack us. Even the Turkish Crime Family said, we didn't hack Apple. So how did they get these iCloud credentials?
So the logic goes is that they went through numerous data breaches and they filtered out all the iCloud and @me and @Mac email addresses. And so we gave the data to Troy Hunt, who's the owner of Have I Been Pwned, the breach notification and lookup site. And he found about 52,000 unique emails in the 70,000 records that we had. And 99% of the records were in his database, which isn't surprising.
No, I'm in this database. Everybody's in his freaking database, right?
Everyone, pretty much everyone. I think there are over 2 billion people are in his database. Now, most of the data seemed to come from the recent Evenly breach, that multiplayer game that you have on your phone, and also other data breaches such as LinkedIn and MySpace and the Adobe breaches from 2012 and earlier.
So Evenly is that game, you see it advertised all the time. It's one of those fighting games that you have on your phone. And it kind of makes sense. People might use the same. Really, the people who are going to be vulnerable here are people who reuse passwords, right? They might use the same password for their iCloud as they used for their Evenly account.
That's right. And so the big question here is really, how real is this threat? Do I think that this extortion group has millions of credentials? I don't think it's impossible, but it's highly unlikely that we're going to wake up on April 7th, which is when they say they're going to carry out their attack, and millions of iPhones have been wiped. But nobody's quite sure how many accounts this group has and how many are valid and working. Our reporting, as I said, has shown that many of the accounts are valid and some of them are not. So we just don't know yet.
How seriously is Apple taking this?
As far as I'm aware, they haven't said anything publicly about this besides the fact that they haven't been breached themselves. For most people, the simple way to mitigate any threat posed by this, big or small, is to change your passwords and to turn on two-factor authentication, and you should be fine. But the strange thing
and stop using the same password over and over and over again.
Stop using the same passwords. But the strange thing here is that Apple can easily nix this threat completely by asking its customers to reset their passwords. And companies do this all the time, especially since the LinkedIn breach. Amazon and Netflix and Facebook regularly obtain lists of passwords, and they compare that to their own databases. And so if any of those passwords match the exposed passwords, these companies will send out a password reset email to those customers.
We've all had this.
In order to protect them.
Dropbox did this. We've all gotten that email.
Exactly. And it's a proactive step that more companies can and should be doing. And given Apple's strong stance on security and privacy, it's something that I would even argue could be seen as a positive thing.
Well, but here we are April 1st as we record this. April 7th is less than a week away. If Apple were going to force people to reset, I would think they would have done it by now.
Give enough lead time.
You'd think, but there's still time. We'll see.
Yeah, but I mean, okay, there's still time. There'll be time till midnight. Do you think they'll make good? That the Turkish Crime Family will make good on their threat?
I've had limited conversations with them, and they're not the smartest group in the world.
You said they're publicity whores.
They're very hungry for publicity.
They asked you if you would connect them with Scott Pelley so they could get on CBS Evening News.
Basically, that's true, and I said no. That's the thing, is that they're clearly, you know, looking for money in this, and I think they have the ability to log into some or even many accounts if they want to. But how good they will, make good on their threat is, remains to be seen.
Probably give them more than enough publicity as it is. Well, but I think this is not the last time, and certainly it's a good idea. It's just an eye-opener to go to haveibeenpwned.com. Yeah. Have you ever done that?
Yeah.
And I mean, because of the Target breach and the LinkedIn breach, I mean, there's so many breaches.
Chances are you're in there for one reason or another.
Yeah. What's the newest? The River City Media Spam List account. MySpace.
Yeah, that was a huge one. That was an absolutely massive
393 million accounts. What is River City Media Spam?
It was a spam group, almost like a cartel of spammers that would obtain lists of email addresses, and they collect an awful lot of information.
But they didn't have passwords. How could that be?
They didn't have passwords, but they don't need to. They don't necessarily need to. If they only want passwords if they're logging into your account, but they can still do an awful lot of damage with just your email alone, phishing campaigns and so on, and spamming.
So Have I Been Pwned doesn't imply that they've got your password, just that you're in one of these databases.
No, Have I Been Pwned doesn't collect passwords, and this is one of the things that was brought up with the other breach notification site, a for-profit site. So Have I Been Pwned, it makes no money, and it's non-for-profit, and it doesn't contain your password. But other ones, such as Leaked Source, which was recently it was brought offline. There's a suspicion that it was pulled by the FBI or the feds. They collected passwords, and the problem is with these websites collecting the passwords is that a lot of the time you can subscribe to these websites and you can obtain passwords, which only helps hackers access various accounts, and essentially it's a conduit for further hacking.
Yeah.
What about verification of these things from a journalistic standpoint? I feel like every once in a while you hear about these hacks, you hear about something happening, and the way that it's verified is you've checked the ID and the password, and voila, it worked. It got me into the site, therefore it must be legit. But you actually pointed out back in 2016 that you've broken the law when you do that, and that's not the right way to go.
And that's one of the things that we're really keen on not doing. And it's very easy and tempting to
let me just see if this works.
That list of accounts to simply
it takes 2 seconds.
But if you do that, you may well verify a breach very quickly, but you could end up in cuffs by the end of the day because you're violating federal wiretapping and hacking laws. So what we do is when we obtain a list of records, usernames, email addresses, or passwords, we'll contact each and every person out of a random sample that we can, and we'll contact them and say, and we'll give them essentially information that only they could possibly know, such as their password. From that, we hopefully get a response, and they say, yes, that's our password. How did you get that? And they ask questions, and then we explain exactly what the situation is, and see if they can figure out some questions and figure out exactly where the data came from. A lot of the time, the data that we receive, we don't know where it's come from, and so we have to try and figure out exactly where it has.
Well, you do great work, and I'm really thrilled we could talk to you, Zach. Please give my regards to Mary Jo. Have a lovely beer at Rattle and Hum. Or two.
Yeah.
It's sessionable. Yep. Zack Whittaker is a writer and editor for ZDnet.com. Hi, Z to Rattle. And have a great afternoon. Thank you, Zach.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.